We're going to the land of milk and honey, where you don't need no money. Talking about the journey deep inside, within the spirit is the guide, and your imagination can run free. You can realize all your dreams. Talking about the journey deep inside, within the spirit as a guide. Everything you want is already. Greetings, one and all. Welcome to the first edition of Talking About the Journey with Eddie Watkins Jr. I am your host, and I am so excited today because my first guest is Amy Steinberg. She is an amazing creative that is doing wonderful things in the world, making a positive impact on humanity. Let me give you a little bit of information about Amy before we get started. Amy Steinberg is an American minister, singer, songwriter, musician, playwright, and actress. She is an independent artist and has produced 9 records with producer Justin Beckler. Best known for her live performances, she blends together a mixture of music, comedy, and poetry. In recent years, she has been studying science of mind and musically directing at spiritual centers, writing songs for the Inspire Choir, Boca Raton, Florida, and the One Love Choir, Charlotte, North Carolina, which has brought Mark's spirituality into her work. She has performed at Agape International in Los Angeles, the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, the Revelation Conference, the Michigan Women's Festival, and opening for Alex Olson and Melissa Farrick and others. More information can be found on Amy Steinberg online and on YouTube and on Facebook. And what I would like to add before we get started is that Amy Steinberg is one of the few people that when I first met her, we had an instant chemistry. You know, I felt like I had known her forever. And this has been a number of years now. And to this day, I feel even stronger about her. I think she is an amazing creative person. And I am so happy to have her as my first guest. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome Amy Steinberg. How are you, Amy?
I'm fantastic.
I know you are.
Yeah, really good.
You feeling good today?
I'm feeling really, really good today. You know, I just, my mornings are peppered with meditation, prayer, and then I watch some news. So it's, you know, I don't like to overwhelm myself with the news, but I just, you know, I watched some stuff about some people who've lost people due to the pandemic. And, so, you know, I don't want to stick my head in the sand. I don't want to close my eyes to the really hard stuff that people are going through right now. And yet, you know, when I look back at 2020, this has been one of the best years of my life. So it's really, like you said before, there's been so many ups and downs in this time. But I'm falling madly in love right now. I have a brand new spiritual community that I'm creating. I'm making art. I have, you know, animals and friends, and there's so much joy. And yet I'm so aware of what's happening politically, you know, stuff that's going on with our consciousness around race, and then of course the pandemic. But so I'm a little heavy-hearted in the moment because I just watched a few stories of some folks who had lost people. But at the same time, I just know that, you know, life is eternal, and I'm just going to hold them high in my heart and the families that are struggling right now.
Yeah.
But I'm filled with joy overflowing, personally.
Yeah. You know, that's sort of been like my experience as well. 2020 has been pretty great for me, but it hasn't been for a lot of people, you know. So right. People that are listening now, how does that happen? How does a pandemic come along and people like you and I thrive?
Yeah.
You know, inside, how does that happen?
Well, you know, when it very, very first started, you know, I mean, I don't think we really knew how long this was going to be. But when it very first started, I was struck to remember the whole Wayne Dyer story of the orange. I don't know if you've ever heard him talk about the orange, that when you're poked, When you poke an orange, what comes out? Orange juice, right? Because that's what's in it. That's what lives inside of it. And I think we are all being poked right now. And so whatever's inside of us is coming out, and I think what's inside of me and what's inside of you is a shitload. Can I swear? I hope we edit it later if I can't swear.
Absolutely. No, go ahead.
A shitload of recovery, like spiritual work and joy and creativity and love. And I mean, I'm human. I'm human. You're human. We have anger. We have issues. We have stuff. But for the most part, when you poke me, you're going to get, a new painting or a new song or a new idea. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going to come out because that's what lives in me.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you. It's amazing. Where did this start? Because you are obviously evolved to a point where a lot of people aspire to right now.
Wow. That's cool.
But that's no accident. And the range that you have and the dynamics that you have, it's like, okay, when I first met you, it was obvious to me, I'm a creative and I'm an intuitive as well. It was obvious to me that this is a person who's not good, she's not great, she's extraordinary. And I remember having a conversation with you one time. I think we were eating dinner or something like that. But I said that this little thing that we're doing here, and hey, listen, no disrespect to anybody, but this little thing that we're doing here is too small for you. And I thought that you should have your own show. Now, this was way before.
Oh, I remember that.
This was way before.
Yes.
Holla.
Yes.
Before Holla. And see, I
thought you were crazy too. I was like, come on, Eddie. I was like, come on. I remember that. You were like, you need a show, like you need like a talk show, or like you need, and it's crazy because that's what's manifested is something almost exactly like that. Sometimes you can see for somebody else.
Yeah.
And you need people along your path that say, hey, I see something really big for you. And I like to do that for people too. And I think you do that naturally for people. And that's such a gift.
Yeah. It's something that what I found is that when you decide to dedicate your life to service, it changes every single aspect of what you do. And it puts that joy into your work, and it takes the fear out of it because, in essence, you work for God, and whatever that God is,
that's it.
As you understand God, that's what you work for. And I found mine personally, a God of my understanding, in a 12-step program. Mm-hmm. That was like 25 years ago. And that's what led me to New Thought. But how do you get from Boston
right
to Sarasota,
right,
to North Carolina, to California?
This morning,
I want to hear about your journey.
This morning, one of the inspirations that I was listening to is Temple Hayes. Do you know Temple?
Oh, yes.
I've never met her, but
she's amazing. Yeah.
I was listening and I was really blown open by the message on abundance, because that's what I'm speaking on this Sunday. So I sort of listened to other teachers about it, and the thing that strikes me about my journey and what I heard this morning is that I've always been open to whatever's next, what's coming. And I've never been satisfied with living in a certain way. I've always been hopeful there's more, that divine impulse, that divine awakening, that expansive nature, that, this, look at that bright light, I'm going to follow that. Oh, look, and then I'm going to follow that. And then I'm going to and I also think, honestly, for me, in my DNA, I know that we're not our DNA, but part of me is just a wandering Jew, I love new places, new people, new experiences. And you also are a traveler, getting in your car and just driving around the country. That's what I did for years. For about 10 years, I just drove around the country and played coffee houses and colleges. And my spiritual journey also, I want to say it started in the 12 steps, but it was before that, because I had a hunger always I was brought up Jewish and I was bat mitzvahed and all of that, but I never really felt a connection there. But I always felt drawn to mysticism, like astrology and tarot cards and crystals. And, I've always been drawn to metaphysics and things like that. And then I started to write. Then I got sober and clean, and went to the 12-step programs. I came out last Sunday on the House of Love and Light as having had taken a drink within the last year. So that's another conversation, maybe for another time. But I feel great about it. I feel fine about it. But 17 years of sobriety put me on, a path, a very clear spiritual path of seeking. And then I stumbled into, I was dragged into a new thought. Church. I don't know. Were you dragged into the church too?
I was, yes.
I think we've bonded about this. I was a musician. I was a singer-songwriter. Right. I was always singing about the light and love. And then when I met Christy Snow, I would say probably Christy Snow. The first minister I saw was Petra Welds. But, Petra is... she's advanced. If she's your first thing you see, it's like, oh, this can't be true.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Kind of no disrespect now. I think she's incredible, but it was just, they were so happy. Michael Gott was the musician. I stumbled into a Dallas. Somebody dragged me in there. I was like, okay, these people are way too happy, But then when I met Christy and Renee, they were so real. They were so real.
Yes.
And not saying at all that Petra's not real, because she is. But when you're, it's kind of like that idea that you can't make $1 million if you don't believe you can make $100, right? So I wasn't in the consciousness yet to get Petra. Am I saying her name right, by the way, Petra?
Yes.
Petra. Okay. Anyway, so she was the very first, and Michael Gott too. Michael Gott is so high consciousness that if you're not there, you're just like, oh my God, there's no way somebody's this happy. But Renee and Christy were sort of closer to my vibration in the way that they were younger. They were very rooted and grounded and strong, big women, and just I don't know, something about them struck me. And I was asked to play. I played a couple songs, and it was the first time, maybe ever, where you could hear a pin drop when I was playing. First of all, because I had been playing bars and coffee houses where you hear the espresso machine, And they were hanging on every word I was singing. And then when I was done, they were on their feet. And I was like, what? Where am I? Where have I fallen? What is this wormhole I've fallen into?
So finally someone actually heard you.
Actually heard me. And I had been singing songs like Exactly, songs like, songs about my recovery, basically, that were spiritual seeking, and I was seeking on my own. And it's kind of like when you meet somebody that is telling a story or the truth that you already know inside of you. Because to me, unity, new thought is of course nothing new. It's the truth. And it's like it unfolds as I took classes and started going to centers, and I started becoming music director, and I started
it's new thought, ancient wisdom.
Exactly. And it's in you.
Yes,
it's in you. And so you're just untethering yourself from the old fears and limiting beliefs and all that stuff. And it's the only place I ever found that said, you don't need this place. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like they weren't trying to rope me into some indoctrination. They were saying the answer is you. Yeah. The answer is in you. And it's like, whoa, that's so empowering.
It's sort of like when you get information, the same information from sources, totally different sources, I had a sponsor in Redondo Beach, in Hermosa Beach, California, that took me to Agape for the first time.
Exactly.
He was a member of Agape, so that was my first experience.
Oh, wow. I can't imagine. Agape, it would have been totally overwhelming. Oh, my gosh.
And it was, and I ended up, but as 1 year sober, it was too much for me. I couldn't absorb it. You came to a place where you were able to absorb it. I did not actually pick it up till about 6 years later.
I totally get that. I'm telling you, the Dallas thing happened, and it was months later.
Wow.
But I had maybe 5 years sober. So there's the difference, right? At about 5, don't they say like you get 5 years, you get your head out of your ass, 10 years, you get the shit out of your eyes? Have you heard that one?
I've heard them all. 'Cause I was a member of a men's stag meeting in Hermosa Beach.
You've heard it all, right?
Yeah, they used to tell me, the things like take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth.
Exactly. Oh, that's that's the hardcore stuff. And
Hardcore.
now that I have had a drink, and when people ask me who have sobriety, like, do you think I could? I'm like, well, maybe in 17 years. Like, how about you just, maybe, I don't know your story. Everybody's different. Maybe never again. Maybe, that's fine too. There's no judgment at all, but it's kind of like, I needed that time. Mm-hmm. I needed that. And I mean, I'm not getting drunk or anything like that, but that's more of a personal conversation between you and me. But, everybody has their own journey with everything.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that, because tell me about Breaking the Moon.
Breaking the Moon. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I would say the beginning of my recovery began when I started using and using as a teenager, really getting into a deep need to escape myself. Mm-hmm. And so as a teen, there was very few artistic expressions that I could hang on to. I got into things like The Cure and Nine Inch Nails and music that spoke to my pain. But there wasn't anything like a Breaking the Moon, which is a musical that I wrote about teen suicide, because I felt like maybe I could write something that would touch teenagers in that way that I needed to hear. Because I started, basically I really wanted to write a musical about teen angst, because that's kind of what I had. I was not a suicidal teen, consciously. Of course, when you're, drinking and drugging and doing all the things I was doing, I think I was suicidal in some way, like deep-seated. Didn't want to really be present. But I wanted to write a musical about teen angst, and then as I was looking up like struggles for teenagers today, because it's a different world. It's just a different world with social media and all the things. And what kept coming up in my search engines and in all my research was suicide. I mean, it's incredible. The 50,000 teens a year attempt, and 10% of that, I think, complete. And I don't remember all the statistics, because it's a couple of years ago now, and it's actually worse now because of the pandemic, and things are up, gay teens, So I took all the issues that teenagers are going through, and I felt like it just became a crusade of mine for a year to create. It was just one of my creative endeavors to do Breaking the Moon, and we did it in a bunch of different cities, and I worked with this group of 7 teenagers that just blew my mind. We kind of co-created it together, and my music was threaded through it. We took it to New York. I kind of thought it might be my whole future, like the whole rest of my life. But then I think in talking about the journey, you can think, oh, this is it. This is the thing that's gonna be my thing. And then for me, what happens is, okay, time to turn right now and go into ministry. Like, next thing I knew, I was being called to be a minister in Asheville after being in San Diego. So it's like, I just go through the twists and turns, But Breaking the Moon was kind of a healing experience for my inner teenager.
Yeah, and not to mention how many lives did you touch while producing that and doing that, and how many teenagers you may have awakened to some information.
Yeah, it was really powerful.
You may have saved lives with that.
I really hope I did, and that was really the goal, And that's when you talk about service and the true joy. It was like putting that together with those kids and having a higher purpose and a higher message was, I say, one of the best times of my life. Absolutely. Even though it was such a dark topic, and such a tough theme, but it was so heart-opening and just connecting with other humans to say, because I think life is so precious. That's one of the gifts that recovery and new thought and all this joy in my life has brought me, is that I really, either you believe life is sacred or you don't. I mean, I love George Carlin. He's one of my favorite comedians in the whole wide world. And he has a whole joke about how, life isn't sacred. The only people that think that are people who are alive. But, it's like, I believe life is sacred.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, I became a vegetarian, because, a lot of people think I did it to lose weight, but I didn't. I did it because of a relationship that I had with a dog and a cat.
That's so beautiful.
I had adopted this cat, and I always hated cats, but
I do know that.
It was an elderly lady that was moving to Phoenix. I lived in Seattle, and she was moving to Phoenix, and she had no one to take her cat. I said, well, I'll take the darn thing, And when the cat came into my house, it burrowed up into my box spring and stayed there for a week.
Right.
So that was my introduction to owning cats. And then one morning I'm on my computer, and this animal jumps and walks right across my computer keyboard.
Oh my God.
And then it just snuggles up to me, and that was it.
That was it.
Totally it. And I thought about the fact that, what I'm eating is like, I might as well eat my cat or my dog.
I know. And they do in some countries too, actually.
and I was just thinking, there's really no difference. These are sentient beings. And
yes.
So that's the reason I became a vegetarian. But you had mentioned something before that I want to touch on, and if you feel comfortable talking about it. Tell me about when you were called to Carolina to minister.
Gosh.
That whole experience.
This is this whole idea of what Temple Hayes was talking about this morning. She was talking about, one of her, because I watched a couple of her talks, one of her talks, she said, a friend of mine, came back from Hawaii and was telling me all about Hawaii and said, Hawaii's so great, you should go. And I said, I'm open to that. I'd like to go to Hawaii. And then the next day she gets an email that says, Temple, we'd like you to come to Hawaii to teach this course and we'll pay for the trip. That kind of thing.
Right.
So I had been for years beside Christy, beside Kevin, Rev Kev, and I had been for years saying, I think I want to be a minister. I think this is what I want to do. And I was headed to the prac track. But the thing about God is that when you're tapped in, turned on, and you say, I'm open to this, they'll just bypass ministerial school. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, and that's what Christy and Renee happened for them too, right? They were just musicians, then all of a sudden, and I'm sure in a heartbeat, people would want you to be a minister, even though you're not ordained or whatever, right? You're are you a practitioner?
No.
No, but you don't. But you are. Just from what you do, it's like I've often thought about approaching CSL and Unity or somebody about sort of like a music minister path where we are just sort of like ordained. Because I have sung and played, and as you have, next to hundreds of ministers. So I've heard so many talks. I've been to so many churches. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. I feel like we're the masters. If you want to know what to do with your church, talk to a musician, because we've seen it all. I've seen different orders of service. I've seen all of it. Anyway, so I played a show in Asheville, and this church here in town called Jubilee was the minister was retiring after 30 years. They were on a minister search, and somebody said, you should apply. And I was like, okay. Again, that light up on the path. I was like, sure, I'm not a minister, but I'll apply. So I sent in a little video, sent in a resume, went through a very long process, a 6-month, they flew me out a couple times, and I got the job. And then 6 months into the job, they were like, this isn't a fit. And then 3 days later, quarantine hit. So I got fired, dumped, and like my girlfriend, the girl I was seeing at the time said, I'm not in love with you. It was just like boom, boom. And in this Temple Hayes talk, she was saying, when you are a person who is open at the top, who is in tune with God, who's in tune, it's not that you don't make mistakes. You make mistake after mistake after mistake, but it's that you get up. And you get up, and every time you get up, you stand up taller, and you stand up taller. And somebody wrote me an email and said, I'm so inspired to help you with your ministry. You need to do your own thing, forget that old, don't, my heart was broken. I moved across country, But I know that God, spirit, divine energy, however we want to put it, had something like you had said all those years ago, within me that was my own thing. And that's when House of Love and Light was born. And I didn't know House of Love and Light was going to wind up being, what it's settled into now, and I want to be open at the top to whatever it's going to become because I know it's transforming, but what it's settled into is sort of like this global, this cozy global community. I mean, every Sunday there's people from California, Oregon, New York, Texas. It's just it's not hundreds and hundreds of people at this time, but it's so spread out. The energy is it's so different than anything I could have ever pictured or imagined for myself. And to be able to share other artists and other writers, and it's been a dream. So yeah, that's the journey from, I can tell you more about the North Carolina thing, but every time when I was living in Charlotte, I would come up to Asheville and I would think, this place is magical. I'd love to be in Asheville.
Well, I have a story for you.
Tell me
about the song House of Love and Light.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
When I heard about the whole thing that was going on with you, it's something just, that lion rose up into me is like, how dare they?
Yeah.
How dare they not adore? How dare they not adore Amy and fire her? I said, listen. So I was looking for any opportunity to just show the entire world what kind of support you had and the power that was behind you and the love that was behind you. And I said, you know what? I could write a theme song for her. I'm going to write
the best thing that ever happened to me. No, and then, you wrote me you wrote me that first one, the intro one, and I said, hey, would you just mind taking the month out? And then you're like, oh, no, I'm going to do something better. I'm just going to write you a whole new song. I was like,
right.
I was like, are you kidding me? Every week, I love it so much. I'm so honored and blessed.
Yeah.
So honored and blessed.
And basically, that's what I feel like you do. You're taking us to a place, when we walk by faith and not by sight through the House of Love and Light.
It's
you. It's you. You are the House of Love and Light, Amy, and I knew it from the very beginning, and I like when you prove me right.
What a nice thing to say, Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, and I think that, when you put positive expectations on people, often they do prove you right? And it felt, I guess, there might be something to going to, seminary or something if you're going to run a traditional church, but I wanted to go into this place here and change everything. Based on all the things that I had seen from all my other experiences, and they didn't want me to change anything, and they just kind of wanted me to be a Sunday entertainer, and I think I wanted to do something different, and then there's of course there's personalities and just a different, I don't know, I didn't have any issues with the congregation. The community and I fell deeply in love. I fell in love with like 500 people every single Sunday. It was the board and the staff and, kind of like that side of things that I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just maybe not mature enough for it, or I don't know. I don't want to think that there was any mistakes or that if there were mistakes, they were part of my growth, because I don't want to beat myself up or beat them up, because I think everything's divine, right? And that was the other thing Temple Hayes was talking about, like you're exactly where you need to be. If it's a mistake that's happening or you're getting fired. God, she told the story this morning about Art Linklatter's story about how do you know the story about Art Linklater, where he's driving around with this guy and they're in Orlando and the guy's like, I'm going to have like all these people and there's going to be animals and there's going to be like hundreds of thousands of people, and Art's looking at like this desolate land in Orlando, and years later he's like, I really wish I would have given some money to Walt Disney when he asked me. It's like, and
the other part of that is Walt Disney, he filed for bankruptcy many times,
and he was fired from his newspaper job or whatever, and that's kind of where I was going to, is like this idea that like I don't know, we're all going on our journey, and sometimes I think sometimes I always feel like God is keeping me humble too. Like things like getting fired not only teaches humility, but it also teaches inner strength, right? So that I can, not beat myself up, but say, you know what? Like, not everybody's going to like you. Mm-hmm. And as long as you like you,
then they're wrong.
That's right. Are you Scorpio? When's your birthday?
I am October 27th.
Oh my gosh, so close, so soon. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Amy, it's just so wonderful to connect with you. And I'm sure a lot of the people that follow me and people that follow you are going to just pick up something new that they didn't know about Amy Steinberg from this interview.
I hope so.
Talking about the journey, ladies and gentlemen, with Amy Steinberg. I love you, darling.
I love you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
The intersection of my mother's and father's lips to touch, twist, perfect what came next to produce me. As look at me and you will see the breeze. The breeze it took to shake the leaves to make my mother's hair move. My father dare touch it and say, please may I have a kiss. Yes, the breeze made me exist.